I still don't know how long I stood in that basement. I remember checking my phone, then the wall clock, then my phone again. Same concrete floor, same buzzing light, 3 different times. That was the moment I realized the scariest thing in that church wasn't whoever else might have been in the building. It was me. I took the caretaker job at St. Matthew's because I needed the money, not faith. The grocery store cut my hours, my rent was behind, and the church paid in cash. 3 nights a week, vacuuming, trash, bathrooms. It wasn't a calling, it was survival. The building smelled like lemon cleaner, old carpet, and that dry mildew you only get in places built before your grandparents were born. I'd grown up here, Sunday school, Christmas Eve services, potlucks. It never felt like home, though. More like a place where people pretended things were fine. I was pretending too. Mostly about the $40. 4 10s sitting at the top of the offering box one night. My bank account was gasping at $8. I told myself I'd put the money back when my paycheck came. I never did. Turns out guilt doesn't need candles or thunder, just silence. The church had plenty of that. The first strange thing was barely anything. A Monday night, parking lot empty except for my Corolla and the ancient church van. Inside, the sanctuary lights buzzed overhead as I swept the aisle with earbuds in. No music playing, just something between me and the building. That's when I saw it. A boot under the pew. A big, mud-caked work boot lying sideways, toe pointed at the altar. I froze mid-sweep. "Hello?" I called. The building didn't blink or answer, it just waited. I stepped closer. Another boot was jammed beside it. Heel first, like someone shoved them together quickly and forgot them. No dirt on the carpet, no drag marks. I carried them to the foyer and set them by the coat rack. Normal explanation, someone changed shoes. But the air felt thick on the walk back, like the building was watching me to see if I believed myself. When I turned off the sanctuary lights, I had the distinct feeling something in the balcony didn't want me to. 2 nights later, I saw someone. Well, I thought I did. I was picking up bulletins from the pews when a leg, dark pants, adult size, slipped out of sight behind the choir rail. My body reacted before my brain did. "Church is closed," I said, moving up the aisle. My voice echoed, thin. Behind the rail, no one, just the pulpit, the communion table, and one open hymnal on a pew like someone had just read it. The page fluttered in the AC draft. Warm pages. My chest tightened. I closed the hymnal, set it carefully down, and told myself to stop acting like a kid locked in a school after hours. But that night, when I turned off the sanctuary lights, I kept a hand on the wall in case I needed to find the switch again quickly. The bathroom thing happened on Friday. I propped the front doors open to air out the building while hauling trash to the dumpster. When I came back in, everything was quiet. Then a toilet flushed. I stopped mid-step. Sound came from the hall bathroom, the one with the flickering fluorescent tube and the mirror that made everyone look tired. "Hello?" I called. "Church is closed, but take your time if you're in there." Silence. I walked to the bathroom slowly. The door was open, stalls empty, sink dripping, a paper towel damp in the trash. No footsteps, no door chime. The front doors hadn't opened, and the only side door had a hinge squeak I would have heard from the parking lot. When I mentioned it to Pastor Dan the next morning, he barely looked up from his coffee. "Happens all the time," he said. "People pop in to pray or use the restroom." "At 9 at night?" I said. "Ministry never sleeps," he joked, but his smile didn't land right. Too quick, too eager to be done with the topic. I walked out of his office knowing 2 things. 1, he didn't believe me. Or 2, worse, he did and didn't want to. The time slip thing happened the following week. At that point, I'd added a little security walk to my routine, checked the doors, the bathrooms, the classrooms, about 10 minutes, enough to convince myself the building was empty of more than dust. On Tuesday night, I checked the stairwell clock before going down to the basement. 9:18 p.m. My phone said the same thing. In the basement, only half the lights came on. Shadows pooled thick between stacks of plastic bins. The furnace clicked low in the corner. After a quick loop, I came back to the utility sink where the wall clock hung. 10:04. I blinked and pulled out my phone. 9:20. Clock again, phone again. For a moment, I felt the room tilt sideways, like my body couldn't decide if it needed to run or freeze. Maybe someone forgot to reset the clock after daylight savings. Maybe the battery was dying. But neither explained why I felt a cold thread run down my spine like something had just slipped behind me. I left the basement faster than usual. At the top of the stairs, the stairwell clock said 9:21. 2 clocks, 1 brain, no peace. 3 days later, I found the note. Folded paper under the office door, no envelope. Please lock the basement tonight. No signature, nothing. I showed it to Pastor Dan. He blinked once, too slowly. One of the deacons, probably. They worry about security. Which deacon? I asked. He shrugged without meeting my eyes. Hard to say. Then he changed the subject, almost forcefully. I kept the note in my pocket the rest of the night. I checked the basement log twice, then a third time. The last night I worked there began wrong. Sometimes the building eased into the unease. That night it started with it. The sanctuary smelled faintly like cologne I didn't recognize. The air felt denser, like it carried a weight. I vacuumed the aisle, trying not to look at the balcony. Halfway through, I killed the vacuum and realized I wasn't alone. In the back pew sat a shape. Rounded shoulders, slight lean, a person sitting perfectly still. My stomach dropped. Sir, I called. We're closed. The shape didn't move. I walked closer. My breath stuck. It wasn't a person. It was a stack of choir robes folded wrong, sleeves draping over the edge in a way that looked like a slumped arm in the dim light. I steadied myself with a hand on the pew. When I lifted the robes, a sleeve dragged on the floor. I don't remember it being there either. I carried them to the choir closet and didn't look back at the pew. Around 9:40, I was about to cut the sanctuary lights when a heavy thud sounded from the basement, then another, then a scraping drag. My blood spiked. Every instinct screamed, leave. My keys weren't in my pocket. I found them on my cleaning cart, exactly where I must have left them, but the distance between me and those keys felt longer than the aisle. I grabbed them, walked to the basement door, and stood there breathing through rising panic. Just check, I told myself. You always check. The stairwell clock read 9:41. My phone said 9:42. I went down. Half the basement lights buzzed, casting jittery islands of brightness. The thudding was clearer now, coming from the far wall holiday storage boxes. One box, slightly apart from the others, a big cardboard bin labeled Nativity Inflatable. It shuddered. My mouth dried instantly. I peeled the tape, opened the flaps of the box. Inside, an inflatable nativity figure. One of the wise men was half inflated, the blower forcing air into its vinyl body. Its painted face crinkled as it twitched upward. Someone had duct taped a kitchen knife into its molded hand. Every time the blower jolted the figure, the knife tapped the cardboard wall. Tap, tap, tap. The blade was stained with what looked like dried blood until the faint ketchup smell reached me. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping. The fluorescent hum seemed louder now, drowning out everything except my heartbeat. The figure strained, rising higher, its arm jerking like a marionette pulled by the wrong strings. I slammed the flap shut and bolted. I don't remember going up the stairs, just the cold rush of air when I pushed out the front doors in the shaky way I quickly jammed my keys into the car ignition. I didn't look back at the building. I quit the next morning by text. Pastor Dan called immediately. You okay? He asked, too casually. Nothing happened, did it? I swallowed. No, just can't keep the hours. A pause spread between us long enough to hear what I wasn't saying. Well, he said, if you ever want to come back. He trailed off. I didn't. A week later, after I'd moved into a friend's spare room and picked up more shifts, Pastor Dan called again. Funny thing, he said. A couple of the youth boys admitted they messed with the nativity, turned the blower on, stuck a knife in the hand with ketchup, and forgot to tell me. He laughed. I didn't. Kids, you know, he added. Sure, I said. Oh, and those boots? They were Earl's. He was fixing the gutters. Must have left them in a pew. What about the bathroom? I asked before I could stop myself. He hesitated. Probably someone using the facilities, he said. We keep the doors open for that. But we didn't. Not at night, because he told me to lock them. He changed the subject so fast it felt like a door slamming. When we hung up, the air around me felt oddly still. All the explanations were normal, boring, mundane. Boots, kids, prank, forgetfulness, clocks that drift, pipes that flush, humans being humans. But none of it explained the tightness that crept into my throat every time I pictured that basement. None of it fixed the part where I realized how quickly my brain assembled shadows into threats and how much that scared me. I used to think that danger was someone else in the church with me. Now I know that the danger was me, in the wrong place, at the wrong hour, with the wrong weight on my mind. I don't work nights anymore. Noise helps now. People, aisles, conversations, checkout scanners, even crying babies. Anything that fills the silence before my thoughts can. But sometimes around 3 a.m., when the apartment is too still, I wake up for no reason. And if the room is quiet enough, I swear I can still hear it. A slow, deliberate tapping, somewhere low, like a memory trying to finish itself. Tap, tap,